Hey guys, we're back and I'm going to be teaching you how to use the pen tool. Now this is probably one of the tougher tools to master in Illustrator, so I'm going to give you a bunch of tips to learn how to use it to develop some really interesting designs. So we can see in our toolbar on the left here that we have our pen tool. It looks like the tip of a really old-fashioned pen, so we're going to click that and that selects it. We want to make sure that we don't have any of these other options selected at this point. We just want the pen tool. How the pen tool works is that you use it to draw your own original shapes and objects. It uses the fill that you have selected here as well as the outline to draw that shape. At this point, I'm just going to keep it standard settings, so it's going to have a black outline and a white fill. That can always be adjusted later using the selection tool as I taught in previous videos. Why do we use the pen tool over the brush tool? I'm going to do a little demonstration now to show you why. I'm going to zoom in quite large on my page. I'm going to first draw a little square like so. I'm going to change it so it has a black fill so we can really see the difference. So I've drawn a square looking like that. I'm now going to create a similar looking square using the brush tool. So I'm going to select my brush tool like so, and right next to it I'm going to draw a square of similar size colored in using that brush tool. Some of us will be really tempted to use the brush tool. I'm trying to get you guys to avoid that just because Illustrator is not as great as Photoshop when it comes to using brush software. I'm going to zoom back out. When I select my pen tool drawn object, when I resize it or make it larger, we can see that the quality has not been lost. It's adjusted really, really well. But if I select the one that I've drawn with my brush tool and then try to resize it up, we can see that it doesn't scale up the same way as the pen tool. The way the brush tool works, because we might layer it lots and lots of times, this size that you design it at, that's the size it has to be. Whereas when we draw with the pen tool, we can always scale it up, scale it down. There's no real loss of quality. That is why we are going to be using the pen tool. I'm going to delete those. I'm going to teach you a few ways of drawing with the pen tool. Now, the quickest and easiest way, which some of you may prefer, is this simple point-to-point method. So when we click once on the page, that starts our pen tool. We don't click and hold, we just click once, and this allows us to then begin drawing, and this blue line is kind of predicting the direction we're going to go in. How we can use this to draw shapes, we can simply click, 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 all the way around to draw kind of simple, very basic, very geometric looking shapes. And this can work for some designs. Sometimes it complements the style you're going for. That's one way of drawing with the pen tool. The other way is that when you draw with the pen tool, we can actually curve our lines. That is the benefit. So what we do is we click once on the page like so. Again, we don't click and hold for our first point. We just click once. And then we select our second point. Let's say I'm going to select it right here. For this point, which is called an anchor point, I click and hold. And by doing that, I can then drag and form a curved line like so. So that has formed a new curved line. We can see now that from that anchor point that I've just created, Illustrator is trying to predict the direction my line is going to go in. I don't want them to do that. I want to have full control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill that anchor point by clicking the point I just made. What that does is that it kills the point and it allows us to freely make shapes that we want to make. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to where I started my point. We can see that my pen tool symbol actually changes. There's now this little circle to the bottom right corner of it. What that means is that it is closing the shape that you have designed. If I click and hold, I can then redraw and reshape this how I please. And that is a brand new fully formed shape that I have designed. So I can move that, I can drag that, I can change the color and the fill as I see fit using that selection tool. This is the benefit of using the pen tool because it allows us to create really complex shapes like so very quickly, as long as we follow that simple process of clicking the most previous anchor point that we have made. By doing that, we can create fully formed, really organic looking designs rather than that geometric style, which may work at some times, but a lot of times it won't. Sometimes we may want to draw over our shapes. And what I mean by that is, let's say I've drawn this nice cube using the pen tool, holding down Shift to make sure that my lines were straight. Let's say I want to now draw it out, so make it a 3D cube. If I go to click on the corner that I've made, sometimes it accidentally deletes that, and that can be really frustrating. What we can actually do is if we deselect that shape, just clicking away from it, if we then go back with our pen tool, we can easily begin to form a cube. And again, we might want to go down and across like so. But we can see when it gets back to this point, it's got that minus, which means it's going to delete that anchor point. What we can do is if we use our selection tool, we can click away from it, and we can actually draw that final line in, or at least close towards it. So that is how we can use the pen tool to form 3D kind of shapes. It's not always perfect, but it can be really helpful. The pen tool is what you'll be using for your second design task, which I will demonstrate in the next video.